Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Realms, the place where you can forget about the chaos of your day and just unwind while listening to some of the most captivating Reddit stories out there. Whatever's been stressing you out, leave it at the door. Right now, it's just you, me, and some work drama to make you feel better about your day. Before we jump in, don't forget to drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. And if you're new here, welcome to Reddit Stories. I go through real Reddit stories every day, so if you like relatable, wild, or emotional tales from everyday people, hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get cozy and dive right in. AETA for asking my coworker to stop bringing her emotional support dog to our open office because I'm allergic. iFeet30F work at a mid-sized design firm, about 60 people in an open plan office. Back in February, my coworker Kara, 29F, went through a rough breakup and started bringing her small dog, Biscuit, to the office a couple days a week. She said he helps with her anxiety. She sent an email to our office manager with a note from an online therapist saying Biscuit is an emotional support animal, ESA. I don't want to minimize anxiety at all. I have my own issues with panic, so I get it. Here's the problem. I'm allergic to dogs, not the I don't like fur on my clothes kind, actual sneezing, wheezing, itchy eyes, hives on my neck allergic. I keep antihistamines at my desk and usually manage, but an animal in the same room for 8 hours is a different story. At first, management told Kara that pets aren't usually allowed, but given her letter and temporary circumstances, she could bring Biscuit on Tuesdays and Thursdays for March, with the understanding that if it affected anyone's health or productivity, they'd revisit. They seated her and Biscuit on the opposite side of the floor from me, which helped a little, but open office shared HVAC, shared kitchens, shared hallways. It's not like air respects desk boundaries. For the first 2 weeks, it was mostly okay. Biscuit is a little white dog, Maltese mix, who sleeps in a soft carrier by Kara's feet. He's generally quiet, but there were still issues. He barked when people came up behind Kara. He had one accident near the printer. She cleaned it right away. And a couple of times he wandered and people picked him up like a mascot. The big thing was my allergies ramped up. By 3 p.m., my voice went hoarse and my eyes looked like I'd been crying. I tried to handle it like an adult. I started with over-the-counter meds and a mask. I didn't say anything to Kara because I didn't want to be that person. But one Thursday I had a mild asthma episode in the stairwell. After a long print run, I had to use my rescue inhaler for the first time in years. That scared me. The next day I emailed our office manager, not HR exactly, we have HR through a third-party service, and explained my allergy and what happened, and asked if we could find a solution, more distance, an air purifier, or maybe discontinuing the dog in office arrangement. I made a point not to blame Kara. I kept it about my health. Office manager set up a quick meeting with me, Kara, and our creative director. We sat in a small conference room without Biscuit. I said I was genuinely happy Kara had support, but that the dog was triggering my allergies even from across the floor. I asked if we could switch her ESA days to fully remote, or if she could use the quiet room with the door shut and an air purifier. I said I'd be fine with an occasional short visit, but 2 full days a week wasn't workable for me physically. Kara got teary and said she felt singled out and embarrassed. She said therapy was expensive, Biscuit calmed her in a way nothing else did, and she was finally getting back on track at work. She also said ESAs are like service dogs and protected, which I now know isn't actually how the law works in offices. Housing and airplanes are different. I tried to be gentle and said I wasn't asking about laws. I was literally just trying to breathe at my desk. Creative director asked for a pause, and the office manager suggested an interim plan. Kara could work from home on her ESA days for the next 2 weeks while they checked with the HR service on accommodation conflicts, allergies versus ESA. Kara nodded but looked upset. After the meeting, she posted in the Cardi General Slack about remembering to be compassionate to co-workers who need support you might not understand. No names, but obvious. Over the next week, a few people DM'd me to ask if I was okay. Translation, did I ban the dog? One person said, I wish you'd talk to Kara first. I get where they're coming from, but having that conversation one-on-one felt like inviting a fight with zero authority to back it up. I went to the person whose job it is to handle the policy. HR got back to us. Under our company policy, only trained service animals are permitted in the office as an accommodation, and even then they consider impact on others. ESAs aren't the same as service animals for workplace access. The recommendation was either A. Kara works remotely on days she needs Biscuit, or B. She tries coping strategies in office without Biscuit and uses our EAP therapy benefits. They also offered to get a HEPA purifier for my area, because apparently I'm not the only one with allergies. 2 others chimed in after the HR note went out. Kara accepted the remote option, but things have been chilly. She still chats with everyone, but with me it's monosyllabic. She stopped inviting me to lunch runs. In 2 project reviews, she was professional but noticeably curt. And once she made a comment like, "Some of us don't get to have the thing that keeps us calm at work." I didn't bite. I keep doing my job. My symptoms vanished within a week. I feel better, my productivity is up, and I haven't needed my inhaler since. But I do feel guilty. I don't want to be someone who makes life harder for someone dealing with anxiety. At the same time, my lungs exist. I didn't ask for a dog-free planet, just for the workplace to be workable for me. ATA for going to management instead of asking Kara directly, and for pushing for a solution that effectively kept her ESA out of the office. NTA. Allergies and asthma are medical too. You went through the proper channels and focused on solutions. As someone with an ESA, workplaces are different from housing. This outcome is standard and fair. NAH for the underlying needs, but soft YTA for not giving Kara a heads up. A quick, "Hey, I'm reacting," might have softened the meeting. Kara posting a vague Slack after the meeting was unnecessary. That's workplace pressure. NTA. HR's distinction is correct. Service animal ESA. Your company handled it by offering both of you accommodations. I'm allergic as well. Masks and meds only go so far when the animal is in the room for 8 hours. NTA. If she needs Biscuit to function, remote is the right accommodation. This isn't punishment, it's matching needs to setting. The accident near the printer would have been a problem even without allergies. Offices aren't dog-proofed. I manage a team. You did the right thing going to the policy owner. Peer-to-peer would likely have turned personal. Kara's feelings are valid, but weaponizing compassion in Slack is not. NTA. Honestly, this is the type of thing that ruins pet-friendly policies for everyone. Trial was fair. Data said no. Asthma episode, end of debate. Health vibes, NTA. She'll cool off. Boundaries feel like rejection at first. Give it time. I'm a lawyer. In most jurisdictions, employers must consider both parties. Allergies can outweigh an ESA in a shared workspace. NTA. You didn't say no dog ever. You said not in the open office with my lungs. Reasonable. AI tier for confronting the polite lunch thief at work and getting him written up. I, 28M, work in product support for a mid-sized SaaS company. Hybrid schedule. 120 employees, 1 floor, 2 kitchens. We've got the typical communal fridge situation. Shelves labeled by department, weekly clean out on Fridays. Label your food signs no one reads. For the most part, it works. Around late May, lunches started disappearing. At first, it was a yogurt here, a La Croix there. Annoying, but easy to chalk up to mistakes. By June, it was full meals, clearly labeled leftover pad thai, a burrito bowl, even a Tupperware of roasted veggies with a bright piece of painter's tape that said, "Do not eat," in bubble letters. The smiley was doing a lot of heavy lifting. Our team slacked about it in the kitchen issues like adults. Please label, please respect labels, etc. Facilities posted a sign, "The fridge is not a free-for-all." The usual. The thefts kept happening twice a week, sometimes 3. No pattern except the stolen meals tended to be the ones that looked good and were in reusable containers. People started ordering more DoorDash, morale dipped, and a weird vibe settled in where everyone side-eyed everyone else in the kitchen. I kept my lunch in one of those glass containers with a locking lid, and my name in Sharpie on both the top and the side. I learned to put it behind a gallon of oat milk like a raccoon hiding treasure. Still, 2 weeks into June, my sesame chicken vanished. I admit I took it personally. I'd cooked that the night before and calorie counted it. I hunted for it, even checked the trash. Gone. I printed a sign for the fridge door. Not sure who needs to hear this, but if your name is not on the container, it's not yours. Facilities replaced it with a nicer one that had clip art cutlery. I was annoyed and possibly petty when I wrote this, but I also started writing the date and time on my containers like I was processing evidence. What changed things? A co-worker in design, Will, 30 mem, had a new lunch bag, bright orange, hard to miss. He stocked it with labeled prepped meals for the week and tucked it in the back. Day 2, meal gone. Will is quiet and conflict avoidant, but he hit a limit and posted a calm but firm message in dark announcements. Please do not take food that isn't yours. I'm available to talk if anyone needs help getting lunch. He meant it. He's that guy who slips people DoorDash codes when they forget their wallet. That afternoon, I walked into the kitchen to heat up my backup ramen and saw Ryan, 42 senior dev, nice enough, a little self-help podcast energy, standing at the counter with a container open. It was Will's orange meal prep container. The label with Will's name was curled up on the lid next to it. Ryan had a fork in his hand and said, "Hey, want some? It's actually really good." I said, "Ryan, that's Will's." I wasn't aggressive, just flat. He blinked and said, "Oh, this was on the communal shelf." It wasn't. It was tucked behind the fridge bin. The orange bag is not subtle. I said, "His name is on the lid." He gave me a kind smile like I just said something naive. People are so rigid about ownership. If we share, no one goes hungry. I said, "But he is hungry. That's his lunch." Ryan sort of sighed and said, if he needed it that badly, he'd keep it at his desk. The kitchen is for everyone. At that point, I was done being polite. I told him I was going to get Will. I left the kitchen, pinged Will on Slack, kitchen, and he came down. I stayed because I didn't want the conversation to get weird. Will was calm, which I wouldn't have been. He said, "Hey, that's mine. I'd like it back." Ryan said, "I've already taken a couple bites. I can Venmo you." Will said, still calm, "Please don't eat my food." Ryan put his fork down, wiped his mouth with a paper towel and said, "Okay, I'm sorry if I offended you." He handed the container back. There were maybe 5 bites missing. He had not reheated it. He was eating it cold with the fridge door open. Will left and ate at his desk. I walked with him. He looked embarrassed and said, "It's not the money, it's the feeling of packing a lunch and having a stranger eat it." I told him I'd go to facilities. He said he didn't want a scene and would let it go if it stopped. It didn't. 2 days later, a vegan co-worker's labeled quinoa bowl disappeared. She posted in Lolly Kitchen Issues, "This is getting pretty demoralizing." Facilities said they'd add more signage and do more frequent cleanouts. That wasn't the problem. I emailed our HR rep, we have one on site, Lydia, wrote what I'd seen, included dates, and asked for a clear policy and enforcement. I suggested cameras. Facilities said cameras in the kitchen were a no-go for privacy. Lydia thanked me, said she'd talked to involved parties, and that was that. The following Monday, a new laminated sign appeared on the fridge. Label your food with your name. Unlabeled food is considered shared. It looked official. The font even matched the other signage. One problem, we'd always labeled, and labeled food was being taken. I asked facilities who put the sign up. They said HR. I walked to HR. Lydia looked surprised and said she hadn't made that sign. She pulled it down herself. Someone had made it and slid it into the sign holder. Facilities checked the printer logs. There was a print job Friday at 5:46 p.m. from the dev area with a file name kitchenpolicynew.pdf. I hated that this was what my job had become. Wednesday, around 12:20, I walked by the kitchen and saw Ryan again with a container. This time he was holding the lid in one hand and eating from a spoon with the other. The lid had a name on it, not mine, not Will's. I took a breath, pulled my phone out, opened the camera, and took a single photo, clearly without hiding it. He looked up. I said, "I'm sending this to HR." He said, "That's a privacy violation." I said, "Then stop stealing people's lunches." He said, "Okay, you're escalating something that could be handled with kindness." I sent the photo to Lydia. Subject line, "This is ongoing." She responded within 5 minutes and asked both of us to come by. In the meeting, Ryan opened with, "I've paid people back when asked. People act like sharing food is criminal." Lydia's face did a thing I can only describe as HR polite, but extremely done. She asked whether he understood that labeled food belongs to the person whose name is on it. He said he did, but fridge culture had always been first come, first served at his last place, and he'd assumed that applied here unless people said otherwise. Lydia asked whether he saw labeling as otherwise. He said he interprets labels as suggestions. I swear I'm not making that phrase up. Lydia said there would be a written warning placed in his file, and that any further incidents could result in loss of kitchen privileges or other disciplinary action. She also said HR would be rolling out a clear policy. Labeled food is private, unlabeled food will be discarded at clean out. She asked me not to take photos in the kitchen going forward, fair, and asked Ryan to send a company-wide apology acknowledging the policy. He looked irritated, but he did it that afternoon. Reminder to respect labeled items in the kitchen. I made an assumption that wasn't aligned with our culture. My mistake. It should have ended there. For a few weeks it did. Then the update. In mid-July, I opened the fridge and immediately smelled fish. Someone had left salmon in a paper bag from a restaurant over the weekend. Facilities missed it. When I pulled it out to throw it away, there was a sticky note on the bag that said, "Community lunch, please enjoy." The handwriting looked a lot like the new kitchen policy sign from earlier. I tossed it and slacked facilities to do a deep clean. About an hour later, Will messaged me. "I think he's at it again." He'd found his orange container opened and resealed. The tape label was peeled back then stuck on. The food wasn't missing, but there was a fork mark in the rice. We each emailed HR separately, including photos of the resealed tape. Lydia called both of us in, along with Ryan. She opened with, "I'm going to be very clear. If you touch food that is labeled with someone else's name, that's misconduct." She had a printed photo of the orange container tape crinkled at the corner. Ryan said he had moved the container to make room, and the tape must have lifted. The fork mark? He didn't know. Lydia said, "I'm suspending your kitchen access for 30 days. Do not use the fridges or microwaves. You can eat at restaurants or bring non-refrigerated food to your desk." He was also required to attend a short training on workplace conduct, which sounded made up, but okay. He was not happy. I didn't feel triumphant, just tired. Since then, we're in September now, lunches have been safe. There's a new system. Each person has a small labelled bin on the shelf. Facilities cleans the fridge every Friday at 3 p.m. sharp and discards anything not in a bin or labelled with a date. It's a little militant, but theft stopped. The social fallout. A few people think I tattled. One person told me I criminalized a misunderstanding. On the other hand, 3 co-workers who almost never talked to me stopped by my desk to thank me because they'd been quietly losing food for months and didn't want to be dramatic. I don't feel like a hero. I also don't feel like a villain. Mostly, I feel like I didn't want to eat instant ramen every time someone felt entitled to my leftovers. Aita for confronting him in the kitchen and going to HR with photos, which led to him getting written up and losing kitchen privileges. NTA. He knew it wasn't his. He peeled back labels and even made a fake sign to justify stealing. The fridge culture at my last place. Excuse is wild. You read the signs at a new pool. You read the signs at a new job. NAH would apply if he had truly mistaken unlabeled food once and apologized. Multiple times, plus fake sign, part AH. You went to HR because that's literally who handles policy. Taking a photo was the only way to stop the he said, she said. As someone who meal preps for medical reasons, this stuff isn't petty. It's my actual nutrition plan. NTA. The Sharing Nourishes community line is just a way to make you feel guilty for having boundaries. I'm HR. Written warning. Kitchen suspension is textbook. Cameras in kitchens are a legal headache. Documentation matters. He offered to Venmo after he'd eaten the food. Like that fixes consent. It doesn't. The resealed tape gave me goosebumps. That's not a misunderstanding. That's sneaky. I'd be switching to brown paper bags with decoy labels like kale puree. Will's slack was perfect. Calm, not accusatory. Your approach was also fine. NTA. I cannot believe a grown man said labels are suggestions. This is why we have policy binders. I once put glitter in my salad dressing as a trap. The thief sparkled for a week. 1010 don't recommend, but it worked. People calling you a tattletale can bring their own lunch and leave it unguarded if they feel so strongly. Community lunch smells like old salmon and entitlement. Our next story takes the bare minimum of human decency to a whole new level. A mandatory fun event that quietly pushes someone past their limit. Company forces us to sing a mandatory karaoke during team building event. I, 34F, work at a mid-sized publishing company. Mostly quiet people, lots of introverts, lots of people who genuinely just want to edit manuscripts and go home. Our CEO is very big on company culture. I think someone told him once that culture makes employees stay, and he took that to mean force everyone to do group bonding activities that no one asked for. We usually have monthly team building sessions on Thursdays. Historically, they've been tolerable. Bagels and crossword puzzles, a mini book swap, someone giving a 5-minute talk about their hobby. Low stakes, minimal suffering. But in late August, the event was run by our CEO's girlfriend, Lena, 31F. She and the CEO have been dating for maybe 5 months. We've seen her twice. She's extremely friendly, enthusiastic, very sunshine-forward energy. Nothing wrong with that. Just different vibe from our office. A week before the event, an all-staff invite went out. Team building, express yourself, group karaoke and acoustic sing-along. Attendance required. Don't forget, your voice is an instrument. The attendance required part was new. Immediately, like 6 people reacted to the message with the emoji. One person DM'd me asking if this was a joke. To be clear, our office is mostly editors, proofreaders, and layout designers. The only person even remotely theatrical is our marketing lead who used to do high school drama. Everyone else is quiet, polite, bookish, the kind of people who would rather chew on printer paper than sing in public. I didn't want to go, but skipping a required thing is not worth the HR email. So I went. They set up a little portable speaker and microphone in the lounge. Lena was there in a sundress, playing guitar softly. There was a printed sheet that said, "Sing with your coworkers to build trust," and a lyric booklet of songs like "Lean on Me," "Stand by Me," and "Hey Soul Sister." Yes, "Hey Soul Sister." We all stood in a semicircle holding lukewarm coffee. Someone whispered, "I feel like I'm about to be sacrificed." Lena opened with a speech about unlocking our authentic voice and how singing in community helps dissolve ego walls. A few people laughed nervously. Our CEO stood next to her smiling like a proud audition dad. The first few songs were okay-ish because she was singing loud enough that we could mumble along and nobody noticed. But then she said, "Let's go around and have everyone do at least one solo line. Just one line, one sentence. You can do it." Immediately, the entire room stiffened. Singing in a group is one thing. Being singled out to perform in front of coworkers at 11:15 a.m. on a Thursday is another. One of our production assistants, Derek, 27 mm, is extremely quiet and anxious, truly kind and competent, but absolutely not someone who wants to be in the spotlight. He physically tenses in meetings if people look at him. When the mic got to him, he shook his head and said very softly, "I'd rather not." Lena smiled in that "I'm sure you don't mean that way" and said, "Oh, everyone can do one line. It's not about sounding good. It's about being present." He stepped back and said a little louder, "No, I really don't want to." CEO jumped in with a too cheerful, "It's just for fun, Derek." It went silent. Derek looked overwhelmed, not angry, just cornered. He said, "I don't like doing this in front of people. Please don't make me." Lena paused, still smiling, but it was the kind of smile that's painted on. She said, "Pushing ourselves is how we grow." And I swear the entire room collectively died inside. No one said anything. It was one of those moments where you could feel 30 people wishing they could disappear into drywall. Derek looked down, handed the mic to the next person, and walked out. Not dramatically, just quietly left. The event continued painfully for another 15 minutes. A few people tried to be enthusiastic to make it end faster. I mouthed the words and stared at the carpet. The next morning, Derek emailed HR. He didn't accuse anyone of harassment. He just wrote, and he later showed me, I felt pressured to participate in an activity that made me extremely uncomfortable. I would like to not be included in activities where performance is required. HR scheduled one-on-one meetings with about 10 of us who were present. We all said the same thing. Mandatory karaoke is not team building for this workplace. HR then had a conversation with the CEO. There was no blow-up, no dramatic apology, but the next culture event email said, culture sessions are now optional. Participation in any group activity is voluntary. Observe, listen, snack, or join in. Your presence is enough. Lena hasn't hosted another event. She still sometimes comes by with muffins. People are polite to her, just more boundaries. Derek seems okay now. I asked him 2 weeks later how he felt, and he just said, I don't want to be a story, and smiled in a way that made me feel both relieved and incredibly protective of him. Was anyone the villain, Tim? Not really. But there was something deeply uncomfortable about watching someone's discomfort get treated like an obstacle to fun. NTA for thinking this was uncomfortable. Mandatory vulnerability is not team bonding. Lena meant well, but she pushed. That's the issue. As an introvert, the threat isn't singing, it's being watched while singing. Completely different universe of panic. I love karaoke, but karaoke is voluntary, at a bar with alcohol, not in a conference lounge beside the printer. CEO needs to understand cultural fit. Not everyone wants to be in Glee. The line, your presence is enough in the new email is chef's kiss. Someone in HR is very tired. Honestly, Derek handled that better than I would have. I would have just evaporated on the spot. People underestimate how humiliating forced play can feel. Work is not summer camp. Pushing ourselves is how we grow, is something a yoga instructor says, not a workplace policy. Optional fun is fun. Mandatory fun is resentment with cupcakes. Next story shifts tone slightly. Less office awkwardness, more slow building friction over something small that spirals. AITA for hoarding holiday PTO and causing a scheduling fight in my department. I, 32F, work in customer support for a mid-sized electronics company. We're a team of 11 handling email and phone support. Our busiest time of year is late November through early January. Holiday orders, delayed shipments, returns, last-minute gifts, all of it. So December schedules are always touchy. Our PTO policy is simple. Requests are approved on a first-come, first-served basis, but managers can deny requests if too many people are out at once. We also each get a set number of PTO hours to use per year. Use it or lose it. I've worked here 6 years. I have always put in my holiday PTO request early. Like July early. My family lives out of state, plane tickets get expensive, and I need to know whether to book. My manager knows this and has always approved it. This year I put in a request for December 21st to 27, so basically the week of Christmas, returning the Monday after. That's the same week I take most years. And I did it in June this time because flights were already going up. It was approved. I booked everything. Flights, rental car, arranged pet sitting. Done. Fast forward to mid-October. A newer co-worker, Kelsey, 25F, mentions in casual chat that she put in for the same week and got denied. She said she was upset because it's her first Christmas living away from home and she wanted to travel to see her family. I sympathized. I do get that, but I did not connect it to me specifically. A few others also sometimes request that week. A few days later, I got called into a meeting with my manager and HR. They told me that 3 people, including Kelsey, requested that week after me and were denied because of staffing minimums. HR said that since I'm the most senior, it made sense that I requested early, but asked if I would consider shifting my PTO to the week after Christmas to share the opportunity. I said no. Not rude, just no. My flights were booked. I already coordinated family plans. Also, the week after Christmas is significantly less important for my family. Everyone goes back to work by then. Plus, pricing that week was more than double when I checked. HR said they understood, but asked me to think about it. I said I didn't need to think about it. My plans were set. That evening, I got a long DM from Kelsey. She said she didn't realize I had taken the same week every year, that she thought PTO was more flexible, and that she felt shut out of holiday traditions while older coworkers get priority. She also said, and this is what bothered me, it just feels unfair that some people here get to have families to go home to, and others are stuck alone. I do not think she meant to be cruel, but it hit hard. My family is small and I don't have kids. I plan these trips so I'm not alone during the holidays. It's not some privilege I wield, it's something I actively maintain. I told her I was sorry she was disappointed, but my plans were paid for and set months ago. She replied, I guess I'll just spend Christmas by myself. It's fine. Then she started being cold to me at work, not unprofessional, just short, quiet, not making eye contact. Co-workers are split. Some say first come, first served is the rule. Others say I should have compromised for team morale. My manager hasn't pushed it further, but I know there's resentment now, and I keep second-guessing myself. I could stay home, cancel my trip, lose around $480 in travel costs, and spend Christmas here. But I don't want to, and I don't think I should have to. So AETA for keeping my already approved PTO and not switching weeks to accommodate newer co-workers. Update 2 weeks later. Manager pulled our whole team into a meeting about holiday staffing and scheduling expectations. They made the policy extremely clear this time. PTO is first come, first served. Previously approved PTO will not be revoked. No one is obligated to trade or give up PTO for others. Employees can request to swap shifts voluntarily. But no one can be pressured to. It was said politely, but the message was pointed. After the meeting, Kelsey approached me and apologized. She said she was overwhelmed, homesick, and felt cornered when her request was denied. She said she didn't realize how far ahead people plan flights and wasn't thinking about the financial part. I told her I understood and that I was sorry this was stressful, genuinely. We are not best friends now, but we are neutral and professional again. She's looking at doing a small trip in January instead when it's slower, and in fairness, I do get where she was coming from. Holidays hit hard when you're away from home for the first time, but I'm glad I didn't cancel everything to avoid tension. I would have been resentful too. NTA. You followed the policy, planned early, and already paid money. This is exactly why first come, first served exists. The older co-workers get priority line was manipulative. I'm glad HR clarified because letting guilt decide PTO is a nightmare. She's allowed to be disappointed. She's not allowed to make her feelings your responsibility. You didn't hoard PTO. You used the system correctly. Also, flights are insane right now. You weren't about to eat $500 because someone else procrastinated. Her apology in the update feels genuine. Homesickness does weird things. Still, NTA,